Well, hello there, and welcome to Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. We're so happy that you're here today.
Ah, that's good, Joe.
You did it! Congratulations! World's best cup of coffee. Great job, everybody.
I have lived through war and lost much. I know what's worth the fight. Honor and courage are matters of the bone. And what a man will kill for, he'll sometimes die for too. We're gonna get her back.
Today, we'll be talking about The Outlander. Aye.
Welcome once again to another edition of Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. This one will be a special edition as we are going to be reviewing and recapping the season final for the STARZ The Outlander, which was our very first podcast. And we'll be talking about the season as a whole and what questions still remain to be answered. I'm, of course, your host, Martin, and with me again, as always, my lovely wife, Kathy.
Well, good morning, Martin.
I didn't get to say good morning.
Well, I could say good night, but then you wouldn't be here after I said that.
Well, actually, I probably wouldn't be here after like 5 o'clock or whatever. But anyway, good morning to you.
Well, thank you, and top of the morning to you. We're speaking
No,
in the
Irish,
Irish,
when
in
it's
an
actually
Irish
Scottish.
brogue instead of a Skype.
I don't have a Scottish thing.
That's okay.
I'm kind of like your mother. Everything comes out
Irish.
Irish, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so as like we always start every show, we're going to give my lovely wife an opportunity to discuss whatever is going on in her head, which would actually probably sound like a whole bunch of different things all at once. But I think she actually has something she wants to discuss that involves her dear brother. So
That's right.
Go ahead.
That's right. And I was blessed this weekend to have my oldest brother, Mike, here to talk to me a little bit while he was visiting with Mom on Mother's Day. The family dynamic here is we're very close, and so we see each other very frequently. And one thing I want to talk to you about, my brother Mike, is that he is a real handy guy.
You're not confusing him with Bob, are you?
No, yes, no. Mike is the supervisor on the crew usually, but he's found it interesting while he is now had some extra time at the house to maybe tackle some projects. So he thought he'd go ahead and videotape these projects and give us all a little idea of how to fix a doorbell and a doorknob and anything that has door first. He's going to show you how to fix anything that says door in front of it.
But that's the deal, though. He didn't really show you how to fix it.
But that's the whole point here. The whole point is that this is how the video starts off. Here is my doorbell. I don't have a doorbell. Here's the wires that have been sticking out here for 10 years. And now I'm going to show you how easy this was. And then the next picture is, there it's already fixed. And he says, and I'm going to clean up some of this glue that's on the siding, because that's been here with where I had the wires taped down with some duct tape. So I got to clean that up now.
So basically, did he have the duct tape just covering up the hole where the doorbell is supposed to go?
I think it was kind of holding. Yeah, I think it was kind of holding the wires down right there. And so now a little bit of background here. My brother has been fixing or getting. He really likes new cool stuff, and he'll get it. And then it sits in the box that he got it in until it's now obsolete.
Right, so he's the polar opposite of me. When I get something
Martin can't even wait for it to come in the door before it's ripped open and installed.
Right, I can't, if I'm buying something and I want it, it's getting opened. It's not sitting there. But he literally will sit there and let it sit until the next two versions have come out of whatever it is he bought.
Right.
At least he used to. He's getting better at it.
Yeah, no, he is getting better at it. But yeah, Martin has many times gone over to, I shouldn't say many times, but a couple times have gone over and helped Mike install something that afterwards Mike goes, man, I could have done that myself.
Well, see, what I thought was funny about his doorbell installation tutorial was that he spent he spent more time talking about what would happen because there was a doorbell on each door, but they both sounded the same.
Yes, that was the best
door to go
that
to?
was the best part of that video. Mike, he says, now my doorbell is attached now. And now you can come to my side door and ring the doorbell, but it sounds the same as my front door. So if I don't come and open up this door, I'll probably be at the other door. But don't go over to that door because then I'm going to be coming over to this door to see if you go over here, and then you're going to be over there. And then it just went on and on and on. And I'm telling you right now, I laughed so hard, I doubled over in hilarity because it was just that funny.
So basically what he's telling me is that if you have two people to visit Mike's house, you want to put one person at one door, one person at the other, hit the doorbell, and one of you is going to get let in.
Either that, or there needs to be a sign out right in his front walk that says, "Beware, doorbells ring identical. Stay at one. Someone will come to you sooner or later."
I'm saying, of course, doorbells are a really simple thing, so I'm not sure what... Oh, that's right. He said he had that doorbell actually in his toolbox for, like...
Yeah, probably since the other one broke.
Right, and he never bothered to install it. But
well, you know.
It's nice he's showing some
initiative.
Right, yes, initiative to get that done.
Yeah, he also has another video that where he put in a doorknob. Again, it was, here's the doorknob I'm going to replace. Oh, there it is. And now it's nice. And he said, he also mentioned about that just in case you were able to get into his house, that he's going to bring Bessie his bat, and that he'll show you how that works. I don't know. He just needs help.
Actually, the bat part was actually more beneficial to know because he actually talked about what he was going to do with it, as opposed to the doorbell or the doorknob, which for anyone looking at it would think, hey, here is it not installed, here is it installed. What you didn't see is somebody else came in and took care of this.
No, he actually did it. He made
that's
sure
what he says anyway, but yeah. I don't have any video proof.
I don't know. I think his wife does, but I think that they didn't find that part very interesting to air.
The fact that there's tape residue kind of tells me that, he probably did that.
Yeah, he
because
did
chances are a professional would not have left the tape residue.
I wouldn't give that, no.
Okay, so as I said in the opening, we are going to be talking about... STARZ The Outlander. They just yesterday released their season final for season 5, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the season as a whole. Okay, so starting out right from the get-go, what were your impressions of the season 5 finale?
Actually, I liked it. It felt like a good season finale, even though I'm looking forward to what's going on in people's lives and what they're going to do. I really, really liked that it kind of felt a little finished for the season.
Yeah,
instead of feeling like I'm on such a cliffhanger that I can't I'm chomping at the bit to see it the next season, though I'm chomping at the bit to see it at the next season anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I was kind of surprised that they didn't do a cliffhanger because, as you say, they kind of left it where you could kind of take a breath, but
listen, every single episode. Well, here's the thing: every single episode, practically, except for a few of the beginning episodes this year, always make you go, "What's happening?"
Right, well, I would think that's what you would want. I mean, because right now
I don't want that all the time. You know what? We got enough stress going on with this other crap going on.
But right now, you're basically saying, "Okay, I can't wait till next season just because I like the Outlander, not because you want to know what happened next." Because they really didn't. I mean, other than the fact that the American Revolution is coming,
there's a lot of things that are coming next,
right,
which are coming, and
right.
But that's good because then that's a story. It's not a, oh my God, is he dead? Is he alive?
Right. So
none of that stuff. I'm good with that.
And to be honest with you, I almost had expected them to stretch out Claire's abduction beyond this episode, which I was kind of glad they did. I was glad they did not. I mean, just for someone who didn't want that kind of drama right over a year or however long it's going to take them to do the next season.
And that's probably why. And I don't know if they did that by design, just to not make people be like. I mean, everybody's watching right now. Everybody's watching stuff right now because they can, and I think it might be
except your brother Mike.
whatever.
Right. And so
That's he again though he couldn't even give me an excuse for why he hadn't started some things as he's fixing doorbells.
right. Well, there's
But
that.
anyway.
But I mean, so. Oh, by the way, I had forgot to mention at the very beginning of this thing. There's going to be spoilers here. So I mean, so if you haven't watched it yet and you do watch it, then you may not want to listen to this podcast before you do that. From just experience to this point, there's not that many people, at least in my realm, who are watching it. So it shouldn't be that bad. So anyway, so like we said, there was no cliffhanger at the end of it.
Right.
But it did continue off from this previous episode where Claire was abducted.
Right.
By the Browns. At the time, we weren't sure what the reason for it was, but we kind of had nailed it down to two different reasons, and it ended up being the first one, which was basically he was upset once he found out that she was Dr. Rawlings, and it was Dr. Rawlings telling his wife how to avoid having basically procreating with
Right.
him.
Exactly.
So that's the reason he ended up kidnapping her.
Right.
And his original intention was to take her back to Brownsville, which is where I guess all his people are at, and get her to confess to the exactly what he expected her to confess to.
He wanted her to tell all the people all the women in Brownsville that she was a fraud and that paper wasn't real. I mean that she wrote the paper and that there was no Dr. Rawlings and that she was the one that she was basically a
charlatan.
Yeah,
That's what he called her.
Right.
But just because she wrote the paper and not a male doctor didn't make the advice any less. I mean, of course, in their time period, right? And especially him, who basically considered women like property. He basically thought she was just sticking her nose in business and what he called putting out dangerous thoughts.
Yeah, whatever.
Which, of course.
Yeah, there's a real source. That's a real source of soreness with me with that thing. But anyway,
which part?
That just because it was backward, early day thinking, and
of course, and that's always been Claire's problem is because she has future thinking,
right? And
she's used to women being more equal. She has a hard time understanding why any man would have a problem with a woman with a strong opinion on anything.
Well, she is a doctor.
Right, and that's just the opposite of the way women were treated at that time. So, like I said, Claire was abducted and was being basically assaulted pretty much throughout her abduction by Lincoln Brown and his men. So to protect herself, she basically put herself in a safe haven in her mind, which was the basically 60s house. It was that's what we're assuming, accused by the music that was being played. That it was a 60s house.
It was definitely a mid-mod.
Right. Matter of fact, I think that they said that the house that she put herself in was one she had actually seen in a magazine in a previous episode this season.
I remember that. Perpetual Adoration.
Perpetual Adoration. Thank you. And she had just saw it in the waiting room while she was there, or in the lounge. She had picked it up
because the other books that were in there were modern medicine and it's a couple other things.
Right. I think I can't remember if that was also the one where she ended up picking up the romance novel off the table.
Who was from her doctor friend
from
the future.
Said that he's the one who put it in there.
Yes, because she said, "Oh, I wouldn't have." Picked
okay, so in her safe place, she had Jamie, of course, and Jamie was the only one we discussed this. Jamie was the only one still wearing basically his colonial.
What are you talking about? Her dreamscape?
Yes, her dreamscape.
Oh, okay,
yes,
okay.
In her dreamscape, the place she went to try to get away from the assault as it was going on. In her dreamscape, Jamie was there, but everyone else was dressed toward the 60s period that the house was, except for Jamie, who was dressed in his colonial garb. Right. Why do you suppose that was?
Well, I felt like that's how she knows him. Now, I realize she doesn't know those other people in a modern day way, but he was her first. That was the first. Those other people came into her life kind of, except for Myrta.
Even all of them came in through Jamie. for the
Right,
most part.
right.
I mean, so and basically,
This is what her life would have been with them in the future.
right? Which I was kind of
And I guess because Jamie is, she already knows Jamie can't travel through time.
Right.
So that kind of, maybe that's the thing.
though Ian can't travel through time either, but she put him in a military
I
uniform.
don't know. Well, maybe because
Of course, it could have been because of the haircut he
I
was
don't
sporting, with the mohawk thing.
I'm not really sure what any of that
but
was about.
of course, she had Murtaugh there, which Murtaugh looks really good in a turtleneck and a jacket with a total silver hair look.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his Aunt Jocasta was there, and she could see, which I found interesting. But she put them together, which I wasn't aware that Jamie or them even knew that they had a.
Oh, I
thing.
think Jamie knew that they had a thing.
They had a thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so because they were trying to get. I think they wanted them to get together.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
something.
and of course Marcelly was there, and so was
Fergus.
Fergus.
And
That was her. That's the name I was looking for. Fergus.
Fergus.
Yes. No, Ian was with Bree and Roger because he took them to the Stones. The other ones went with Jamie to the still when the still.
that's what I
blew
meant.
up.
The still, and that was the whole point of them blowing up the still.
Right,
So they
was-
draw them away from the house.
Right, which of
But
course-
anyway, when they drew them away from the house, and they were there, and I'm wondering if that's why Claire saw all them looking like they belonged in the future because she could have lost. She could have lost all of them aside from Jamie.
Of course, now, and that was another thing that the only people missing from her family
Right,
were
was
Roger,
that's because
Brianna,
she already
and
knew they were gone through the stones.
right. So you think that's so? Is that why?
I do think that's why they weren't there because
And you
she
also
already
believe that's
knew,
why she rationalized that by basically killing them all?
sorta, because they were dead in her life anymore. She never thought she'd ever see them again.
Right. Which brings up another
But
thing.
then, like she's sad by it because she sent them to the future so they'd be safe, and then they got killed in a car accident.
Right. Which kind of the thing that Bree had with her dad when he asked her to go with him, and then he gets in a car accident and dies.
Right.
Right. Okay. So why do you think that Lionel is invading her safe spot? Because
Why?
you see him at the dinner table. You see him as the police officer telling him that Roger, Bree, and
he
Jim
means
are
nothing
dead.
but he means nothing but trouble to her. He means nothing but a problem.
So is that saying that her, basically her safe spot is as safe as she'd want to because he's invading?
He's invading her dream,
Right.
her safety net, and because he was assaulting her at that point.
Right, which is I think was when, and of course he's by assaulting her, he's taking something from her, and that's why he's there as the
Yeah.
police officer, basically taking
Bree and
Roger from him.
right.
But I thought that was interesting. So they keep, like I said, she keeps going back to that safe haven in her mind to protect herself against the assault. So Jamie finally, is getting the men ready to come find her. Roger and Bree and Gemma had went through the stones, and they thought they had went back to the
Right.
went back to the future. But when they get up off the ground and look, and you remember at the end, or anyone who saw the previous episode, where Roger went, "What the devil?"
Yeah.
and what the devil was,
Yeah.
Ian was there.
Right.
They had not went anywhere.
Right.
So why do you think it is that? And we
Okay. I have a couple theories here.
Okay, so why they didn't go anywhere?
Right. Theory number one is I feel like this is their first traveling through these stones that are close by their house.
By the stones in the Americas as opposed to the ones in
As
Scotland.
the one in Scotland, because they both came through in Scotland and then came over here. So I'm not sure now. Are the stones where you come in need to be the ones where you go out? But I thought that that what's her name that Galus went through different stones, but I could be wrong.
No,
I think she might have been going through just the stones.
Yeah, as far as I know, both times that
How did she get to the
first-
Caribbean though?
I think, of course, that was a travel once she went through the stones in Scotland, and just like Jamie got to the Americas, they got on a boat and went to wherever they went.
Yeah, but they were at a place like that. That was in that cave. That circle of water.
They had things in there too.
That was like a travel portal too. I thought.
Well,
I might have to rewatch that episode. But anyway,
but the fact of the matter is, I said, both Claire, Roger, and Brienne had up until then had made all their journeys through the stones in Scotland.
Right. Okay, and so now maybe that could be a thing.
And the reason I think that's possible is because, they said, okay, we were thinking of home. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think that's a necessity to think of a certain location, like I said, because when Clara went through the stones the very first time, she wasn't thinking, I want to go back to 200 years ago Scotland.
No, and again, something that I thought was made clear about on previous traveling, that there needed to be almost like a calling to that person to the other side, to wherever they were going. I feel like the reason why Claire got to go the first time was because history, she'd already been there once.
Okay, we talking the first or second time?
The first time. She'd already been there once because this is 200 years later. So really, that history already happened. Even though in her mind it didn't happen yet. Jamie was calling to her.
These time paradox things,
right.
Which would make sense.
And he went and saw her before it ever even happened.
Yeah, so of course now we know he can't go through the stone, so
But his ghost went and saw her in the future before he even met her.
Yes, I know, because her husband ran into the ghost.
Right. So she was being called. I think that's what it is. And you know what? Probably in the books it tells you that, but I haven't read a book, so there you go. Anyway, so that's that. That's what I think.
Well, see, another thing, that again was interesting about the stones. Again, like I said, the stones in Scotland, it's call it a historical monument thing. So no one touches them. Tourists go to see them. These ones in America, there's no guarantee where these things are in the future. It's not like those were kind of in some kind of, at least as far as I knew, weren't kind of a thing where people go to see them. I mean, for all we know, in the future, those things have been torn down and a building's been put in their place. Or maybe they're in the middle of a wildlife preserve, or maybe they're in the middle of a zoo.
You mean
the stones in America?
Yeah, because well, and first of all, because you didn't come from them in the future or the past.
Right. And again, that's why I tend to believe...
He said that... I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but the Indian that saw her when she was tied up and getting knocked around and raped, told her that he came there from 1968 with a bunch of other people.
With a bunch of American Indians.
Right.
And they went there supposedly, he said, to save the Mohawk. Which, of course, why he was surprised when she told him that the Mohawk killed him. Said, well, again, obviously you guys failed. Of course, they do a lot of the stuff. Matter of fact, all these people going back with the idea they're going to change something, it never really works out. I mean, history doesn't get, you can change a few little tiny things, which of course is why Ian, in the previous episode, wanted to know if he could go back and just change whatever happened between a man and his wife, which I still think is him, but till this point, which we're going to get to, we still don't know what's going on with Ian.
Yeah.
Though I did have to say that in Jamie's battle to rescue Claire, Ian was the boss in that battle.
Oh, hell yeah, because he was killing people and taking names.
Yeah, so he fought just like a skilled Indian warrior with a tomahawk and a war club, and was beating people left and right. Which, considering how...
And his form was fantastic.
Right.
What?
We're judging his form.
I can tell you what, if I had been in that time period, I would have, just from what we saw there, he looked so at ease with his battle tools and things, and it was it was kind of exciting.
Right. Would say, and be honest with you,
He looked like a badass.
when I first saw, because I've watched it 3 times now, the episode.
Yeah.
When I first did it, I didn't realize that was him. I was sitting there thinking, hey, he's one of those Mr. Brown's guys that on there is fighting pretty good, but it was Ian. Mm-hmm. Of course, and Ian didn't have a bit of problem killing people, which is unlike Roger, who agreed to go with him. Yeah. He had, he's a history teacher. He's killing people is not his right. But
I guess he figured I'm not a history teacher anymore. I can't even get back. Right. So screw that idea.
And to be honest with you, the fact that they came back, he seemed to take that relatively well. I mean,
what are you gonna do? I mean, honest to God, and honestly, first of all, Roger really doesn't have any family.
No, because he's said as much. Of course, his adoptive father had passed away already. So basically it was him.
And there you go.
Closest he came to family was the little girl, the granddaughter of
the guy he wasn't
blood related to her. I mean, but so. Right, theoretically,
there was nothing calling them back.
Right,
because Bree's family was her mother and her father, who's dead, and friends certainly, I'm sure, were on the other side, but there was no family calling to her, and I think that's why when both of them were talking about going home, that they actually said, and frankly, I don't think they were that upset about it, because it is a simpler time.
Well, of course, I thought the reason they really wanted to go back is they wanted to try to avoid the bloodshed that was getting ready to happen with the revolution.
Yeah, well, they know what's going to happen, so
yeah. So maybe they should spend the time they got left building like a bomb shelter or something, and we're going to hide it. Or what do you call it? The room that you lock yourself into?
Oh yeah, a safe. Not safe. A panic room.
Panic room, right? So make themselves a panic room, so they'll just lock themselves up during however long the American Revolution lasts. Right. Because then we'll come back out after the.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so they warn you in the beginning of the episode that there is going to be some graphic sexual assault, and there was, and Jamie, of course, once Roger and Bree return back from the stones, and they're going to stop halfway through, but they decide to go on when they see the crossfire burning, and they know that that's not burning unless there's a problem. So they go back, and of course Jamie is excited and happy to see them, but he said, they were attacked, your mother was taken, the Browns probably did it, we're going after him. So Bree wants to go with him. Right. And he tells her, no, it's not safe for you to go with him. And I thought that was another interesting, I don't know if it was it's a minor little deal, where usually, she called her adopted, the man she thought was her father, she called him Dad. Right. And called Jamie Da.
Right. Well, you told her to call him.
Right. But when she was saying that she was going to go with him, she called him Dad.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Just I don't know if it was a Freudian slip. Didn't really probably have anything to do with anything. But anyway, so he tells her to stay there, but Roger says he's going to go because he had promised him in the Fiery Cross, episode number 1, that he swore that if he went to war, he would go with him. So he said, did you mean that when you told me you wanted me to come with you? He said, yeah. So I meant it too, so I'm going with you. Right. So anyway, apparently, like I said, the Browns left a really easy trail to follow because they caught up to him pretty quick. Right. And of course, they pretty much wiped out him and Ian and the bunch, wiped out the 4 of them. But Roger was forced to kill him for the first time. Right. And later on we'll find that kind of bothered him. Because again, he's a history teacher. You're not supposed to kill people. But anyway, so they rescue Claire, and there's a few people left still living. Right. So Myers, the hunter who went with them, offers his knife to Claire, saying, hey, do you want to avenge yourself upon the what's left? And of course, Jamie tells her, no, she took an oath not to take lives. But I do her killing for her. Mm-hmm. And of course, Ian said, yeah, and so do I. And then Fergus said, yeah, and so do I. So he asked Claire, said, okay, so basically who and how many, as far as, or who and who did it. And she couldn't answer that question, so Jamie tells him, kill them all. All right. So Ian, okay, walks up the hill to go do it. Right. I'm not sure where Roger was during that time. I doubt that he took part in that. I think Roger probably just kind of sat back and watched. But he didn't say anything because, so after that he picks Claire up and brings her over to where the rest of the men are dead and kind of show her, okay, these guys are all dead. They will never harm you. They're dead. But they find one of them alive, which was Lionel. Lionel's still alive. Go figure that. And they're getting ready to kill him. But Roger stops them and says, we may want to ask him some questions and find out why it is they did what they did and maybe what their plans are. And Jamie thinks, yeah, we probably do. Said, but I want to get Claire home. So I'm going to take Claire home and you and Myers go ahead and load him up and take him back to the house.
Right.
So that's what they do. So anyway, so they take Claire back home and she sees Bree, and even though she's, beat up and hurt and traumatized, she's still happy that Bree is there. So Bree takes care of her, puts her, draws her a bath, and Claire's really not saying anything. She's just got a brush and scrubbing her nails, trying to get the kind of just trying to scrub away the memory, basically, kind of thing. But she's not saying anything. So Bree basically tells her that you have my hands and you have my ears whenever you need them, and leaves her. Afterwards, once she gets dressed, Jamie comes to see her, and it just breaks his heart to see that she's struggling so. But Claire is really tough.
Yes, she is.
And she makes it a point to tell Jamie that she's been through too much to let this
one little thing,
right, which is not a little thing,
right? But in her mind, with all of the things that she's had to endure, that this thing is a it's just another thing that's just gonna she's not gonna let it.
I survived World War II.
Yeah.
I survived losing a child. I've been beaten. I've been betrayed. I've been you name it. This is not, you would think this should break me, but it's not going to, which was really impressive, and McConaughey just basically tells you the kind of person that Claire is. And it's probably why Jamie loves her so much. So anyway, so she's trying to get by through that as best she can. In the meantime, just on a side note, Roger, like I said, had to kill someone for the first time, so he goes back to Bree and. As they're getting ready for bed, he wants to tell her about. He asks first. He asks, "Did Jamie tell you what happened?" No, he didn't tell me what happened. She goes, "Well, I want to tell you." So anyway, he tells her to put out the candle because I guess he wants to confess to her in the dark. I don't know. But anyway, so he tells her that he killed a man, and that's as far as it goes. But basically, he just had to get it off his chest that he did that, and he was concerned that whether God would think he was right to do that. Right, which makes me wonder. I mean, does he think that Bree is his replacement for God to give him permission?
No, I think that it's kind of like things that you say in the dark.
Well, and it's kind of it's similar to the relationship Claire and Jamie have. I mean, they'll talk about just about anything with each other. Right. Just if nothing else, I guess, just to get it off your chest that it happened.
I mean, the thing of it is that if you can't, when you stop being able to tell the person that means the most to you, the things that are the most important for you to talk about, when you can't say those things to somebody anymore, what do you have? I mean, what do you have as it's the beginning of the end of your relationship, because it's how it works. I'm very familiar with when you cannot say the things you need to say. Okay, so in the meantime, Lionel is in Claire's surgery, strapped to the table, and he's still hurt. And like I said, he's ballsy as all get out, because he's sitting there asking for mercy, telling them not to let Jamie kill him. And I'm thinking, well, why in the hell should we show you any mercy whatsoever? And of course, Marcelly is basically shut up. I love her comments.
Right.
Man.
I say, no,
it makes me feel like, yeah, that's right.
I said, I've grown to really like Marcelly.
I do too. I love her.
Considering that her mother was such a piece of work, she's been great. So anyway,
you got to remember that she lived with, Jamie was with his mother with them, with Marcelly and
Right. I mean, they
her
basically
sister for a while in their kind of formidable years. So
right. So Claire goes down there to see him. And she's trying to be a professional about it. She's trying to remember her oath and everything. But he's sitting there keep talking about how she should be merciful to him, which, like I said, was ballsy in the extreme. And even while Claire's sitting there thinking that, I have this oath, she's grabbing a hold of a scalpel. And she's probably thinking, it wouldn't take much, just a little nick here. But she tells herself, I will do you no harm. And puts the scalpel down. In the meantime, she tells Marcelly what to do.
Right, to prepare
a thing to give him an injection. So she leaves the room and breaks down upstairs, because, she can't still stand to be around him. And Marcelly is preparing for him, and he's sitting there telling her that you best take good care of me, because if you don't, my brother's going to come over here and slaughter all of you, or he's going to burn down your cabins with you while you're sleeping. Which kind of leads you to two different things. Number one, I'm still thinking the chances are all these attacks that have been happening around all these around the communities have been them trying to justify the reason for their committee of safety thing.
Right.
Because he basically described what was going on in these places. And, of course, they would tell you that it was the Indians that did it. Or, like I said, in the cabin that Jamie and them found, there was one arrow. And that's all they found in all the bodies that they found. So he also said, okay, so he basically threatened that we're going to kill you if you don't take good care of me. And she's basically telling him that, Claire has trained me in the healing arts.
Right.
But I have taken no such oath that she did.
Right.
So I am going to basically take your life because you will no longer hurt me. You hurt she calls her Ma, hurt Claire, and I will see you burned in hell before I let you do any harm any other person in this house.
Right.
So she basically took some hemlock and injected it into his neck.
Right.
Good riddance, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
Of course, Marcelly is a good person. Right. So right after doing it, she's immediately concerned that she's basically signed her ticket to hell.
Right.
For doing so, or that he's going to haunt her.
Right.
And that's where Jamie, when he comes in, he finds her on the floor with the needle, and she's concerned that, because she did this, that she's condemned her soul to eternal hellfire. And of course, Jamie tells you, hey, it's what's done is done. Basically, don't worry about it.
Right.
So after he does that, he goes ahead and takes the body and takes it back up to Brownsville, back to Lionel's brother. Says, okay, your brother and his men attacked the ridge, kidnapped my wife, and assaulted her, so we killed them all. I'm bringing back your brother for burial. And he said, well, Lionel kind of reaped what he sowed. So I appreciate you bringing him back. And you did what you had to do. But I'm going to have to do what I'm going to have to do at some point in time.
Right.
Basically, just kind of warning him that, what goes around comes around kind of thing. Which kind of leaves the door open for next season of what that actually means.
Right.
So anyway, Jamie goes back to to Fraser's Ridge. Everything's kind of back to normal a bit. And they're standing on the porch, and Claire sees a post that's kind of leaning and said, that post is over there leaning. And Jamie said, well, I'm going to go take her right. And I said, no, let's not. Let's just go ahead and enjoy what's kind of an ordinary day. And in the meantime, a storm is brewing off the side, which is basically kind of literal and figurative. A storm is brewing because the American Revolution is coming.
Right.
So there's trouble coming. So the episode ends with Jamie and Claire laying naked in their bed, and he's marveling about how brave she is. And I'm assuming he's doing it because, after his assault, when it happened to him, he had a hard time letting anyone touch him.
Correct.
And the same thing with Brianna when hers happened. But Claire seems to be coping better than they did.
Right.
And, so...
Maybe this, maybe possibly the spit will hit the fan later, but right now...
She's coping with as best she can.
Right.
So that's kind of where the episode ends.
Okay.
So we know we have a 6th season coming. We do not know when it's going to be. I don't know if it's been filmed. I kind of think it has not. So there's a few questions that remain to be answered. Okay, let's back up the truck. Okay, so season 5 as a whole. What did you think of season 5?
It was a good season. I mean, it started out a little bit on the calm side, which I kind of liked because there was so much nail biting in the first 4 seasons. At every single episode, I always felt like you were, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what's going to happen next? And then you kind of got a little bit of a reprieve with things starting to settle in a little bit. And then all of a sudden, the stuff started
right.
The basically
from episode 1 through 5, you got bits of information about what was going on, but they were kind of self-contained. It was only when episode 6, the Battle of Roger Mack hit, that the drama started to ratchet up, and it pretty much kept up that way all the way until the season final that we watched last night.
Right.
So, like I said, of these episodes, like I said, there are no bad episodes in The Outlander, and that's the one thing we always tell people, is that season 1 through season 5. In fact, Lizzie, how long did it take Lizzie to watch?
Not very long.
Right.
Not very long. I mean, you figure, honestly, if you kind of put a little bit of an effort into it and watch a couple, two episodes a night, I mean, you can get through the whole thing.
And she was going, okay, I'm watching this. Okay, I got to watch the next one. She was kind of doing our deal. Yeah.
Didn't take us long. And I can tell you what, it did not take us long to get caught up this season.
Because it does draw you in. Especially because of the drama that's involved, especially in the...
and again, I enjoy these kind of... There is obviously a thread of truth through this whole thing because it follows along with history's adaptation of what's going on.
I mean, the American Revolution did happen. The Battle of Culloden did happen.
These are actual events, and for me, filling in somebody's backstory in between those events is, whether it's true or not, I mean, it's very intriguing, and just like this whole thing is intriguing to me anyway, because I kind of like the whole idea of being able to time travel. I've always thought it was fascinating.
So anyway, like I said, the season as a whole, like I said, not including this last episode we watched, my favorite 2 episodes of the season were the Battle of Roger Mack, which was, like I said, was the very first episode where the drama kind of ratcheted up. Mm-hmm. And that was the one where Murtaugh ended up dying, which was kind of heartbreaking for Jamie, and for anyone who's watched the series up until then, was kind of sad.
Yeah.
And of course, Roger being hung at the end. And of course, they kind of left it a cliffhanger as far as whether he survived or not. And then they skipped a week, which was kind of dirty. But anyway, so he ended up surviving that. And the other episode was Mercy Shall Follow Me. And this is the one where they finally get the revenge on Stephen Bonnet, who had been basically just asking for it for a while now. And he was the man who had raped Bree.
All right.
Once they finally caught him, like I said, I was, of course, Jamie's total idea was when we catch him, we're going to kill him.
Right.
That was his plan. But it was Bree who decided that no, she did not want him killed. She wanted him justice to be dealt. And so explain to me again exactly why you think she did that.
Because he has skated through. He's gotten away with this. He's gotten away with murder twice already, and not necessarily murder, but. In some cases murder. But basically murder.
But yes, he escaped justice.
Yes, he escaped justice twice. He was let go by Jamie the first time, and the second time they burnt the jail down and he escaped. He is like a slippery little sucker, and you got to catch that little fella, because
good job of centering yourself there.
but because and I know exactly why she wanted him to have justice. I mean, well, actually, her to have justice, but him to
to face the crime.
Yes, to face.
And again, like I said, I hadn't thought of it until you said it. Was that his original plan was to basically get custody of Jeremiah.
Yeah, basically steal Jeremiah so he could have his property.
And of course, back in that particular time, the fact that she, even though he raped her, the fact that she went ahead and had the babies, as far as they're concerned, she basically it was consensual.
A willing participant.
Right. So because of that, he was thinking that he could get custody of Jeremiah, which meant he could get custody of River Run and get all that property. So by letting him face justice, she basically kind of circumvented that by saying, okay, yeah, you were, as you said, you were a scoundrel, you had these crimes, you did these crimes. Mm-hmm. So there should be nobody coming up later and saying somehow or another that Jeremiah was somebody else's custody. But the thing I found interesting at the end of it, though, was that and I had never seen this kind of execution before. I'm sure was the
drowning.
The drowning, right? Tie him to a post in high tide and wait for the water to engulf you. Low tide, right? And wait for it to engulf you. And originally, I guess the people that he had committed crimes against were all sitting. Like people watching the execution were all there watching, but it was taking so long. Most of them left.
Right.
So he was kind of by himself.
Well, the tide doesn't come in 5 minutes.
Right. Though I thought it was interesting, and this is something Lizzie brought up that I didn't notice, and I guess I have to go back and watch, was that he had a fear of drowning.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that was the case.
Well, he told that whole story to Bree when he was at her house, when he actually kind of captured her.
Oh, took her to his house where they were.
Yeah, he was trying to get to know her or whatever.
Right.
And he was like, all of my life, she says, well, what bothers you or whatever? And, you don't seem like anything bothers you. And he was like, I genuinely have a fear of drowning, blah, 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 blah.
Which was kind of poetic justice that's the sentence they gave him.
Well, right.
Of course, at the end, when the water was getting up close to his head, Bree ended up shooting him in the head. And of course,
I would have done it. I would have done the same. I would have done that as well, I think. Because, first of all, even though I would have liked to have seen him suffer a fearfully tragic death that he has probably instilled upon, he's dreaded and instilled upon other people, I'm sure. And it was probably he just deserves to get it. But I also would have been in the same frame of mind as Bree is, oh, hell no, I'm going to shoot your ass to make sure you're dead.
Well, and again, for the same reason that you mentioned previously, was that
he's already gotten away.
Right, twice.
Yeah, so, all he needs to do is float his butt up as he's on the, I don't know.
But there's no reason to take the chance.
Right, so I wouldn't have either.
A bullet between the eyes will stop you every time.
Just fine, right.
So, like I said, that was my second favorite episode of the season up until this last one. But like I said, we got season 6 coming, and there, even though we didn't really have a cliffhanger, there's still some questions to be answered going into season 6. You need to know what happened with Ian and the Mohawk, because obviously something happened. It was sad to Ian. It had something to do with a woman. She's not dead because he told Roger that she wasn't dead.
Maybe he wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess so many things.
We don't know what it is, but it was something obviously he thought that he could go back in time and fix relatively easily. So there's still that to be found out. You got Wendigo Donner, who was the Indian time traveler that...
What's his name?
Wendigo Donner.
That's his name?
That's his name, Wendigo Donner, yes.
Can't he just be and have another name?
No, Wendigo Donner is his name. Wendigo
Donner.
And he's
an Indian.
Yes, he was one of the American Indians that went back in 1968. Of course, he was not there when they killed off everybody, so he's still out and about. So we got to try to find he's trying to get back.
Right.
Which Clara offered, if he had cut her loose, she said that I could get you gemstones, so you can get you back.
All right. Well, he said I can't let you go now.
Right, because he was too scared. He was scared of Lionel because Lionel was crazy. So he's still out running about. You got William Brown and his warning about what was going to happen.
Lionel's brother.
Yeah, Lionel's brother. What was going to happen, or at least the possibility of what was going to happen, that he was going to seek vengeance for his brother eventually at some point in time. They don't know what that is, when it is. And of course, Lionel talked about them burning the cabins down. That is supposedly how Jamie and Claire die, according to the obituary.
Right.
So maybe that ties into it. We do not know. And of course, you got the American Revolution getting ready to happen, and everything that goes along with that. And there's all kinds of opportunities to get yourself killed during that. So, and of course, then you still have Roger and Brianna. They failed in this attempt to go back. Will they attempt to do it again?
Right.
Who knows? Anyway, so those are kind of the questions we have for season 6. Like I said, we don't know when that's going to happen. As far as I know right now, again, if you want to watch The Outlander, seasons 1 through 3 is still on Netflix. Seasons 4 and 5 are on STARZ.
Right.
I would somehow assume some of those seasons will end up back on Netflix again. I don't know that for a fact. But for STARZ to make room for new shows, they might go ahead and let them move over to Netflix.
Right.
So anyway, those are your avenues to see The Outlander and to catch up before season 6. And you're going to have time, apparently, if anything goes like it always does. So that's pretty much what we got for The Outlander. I'm Martin.
And I'm Kathy.
And we'll catch you on the next episode of Martin and Kathy's
Coffee Binge.
Bye.
Bye.